Ben Fulford, I traveled to Japan to meet you, and I really will not repeat all of your illustrious credentials, but what really impressed me when I was in Japan was the people you introduced me to. The Japanese princess, the criminal warlords, and Asian secret society people, and so forth. I really admire very much both your past, your intellect, and your present contacts. So what do you want to talk about today, mindful that the war on Iran appears to be winding down?
Okay. Now, first of all, I'm trying to keep a focus on the big picture, which is we want world peace and we want to improve how we, run this planet. That's what we're all fighting for. The Asians are on board. The British are on board. I think everybody's on board except for a group of fanatics, religious fanatics, who seize control of the financial system and still think that they're going to enslave humanity, and they're in a desperate end game now. So it's like a Hail Mary pass attempt with this Iran business to start their World War III, but nobody's taking the bait. And I think Trump is, I don't know what's going on. But on the surface, it looks like he made a huge mistake. If he's playing 5D chess, and more power to him, but the end result is it's been a disaster for the Zionists and a good thing for everybody else. And but I am seeing a lot of provocations. I got a report from some people in the Spanish-speaking world that a bunch of Christians are being murdered in Iraq right now, and then they're trying to make it look like Muslims did it, but that's not true. So there's going to be more going on, but the important thing is that it's not going to succeed, and world peace is more likely than world war. Now, the other thing, I want to connect a few dots here for us. The U.S. corporate government, which is different from the U.S. Republic, has a payments deadline January 31st, and I've been pushing to bankrupt it. And this will be a very good thing for the American people. It'll mean their living standards will double within a year if we get rid of this, parasite that's on their back, this free fiat money printing machine. Now, the other thing is that we've just found out the Federal Reserve Board has printed $6 trillion in the past 29 days, $6.23 trillion in the past 29 days to try to keep their whole rickety system from blowing up. But I don't think they're going to be able to succeed. Now, the other thing that's going on, which I'm paying attention to, is that there has been a whole bunch of earthquakes in Puerto Rico. And I looked at the seismographs, and it's clearly they're not natural. So some sort of major attack is taking place there that may be connected because the U.S. corporation was originally incorporated in Puerto Rico. So we may really be nearing the end game here. Knock on wood, cross your fingers and all that other stuff, superstitious or whatever. But I think we really might be near the end game. I hope so. What do you have to say, Robert?
Let me throw out a couple of things. Number one, I am watching and I'm hearing reports of the Israelis agitating, arming, and pushing the Kurds, not only in Iraq, but in Turkey and Syria and Iran. I personally believe it's the Zionists that are killing the Christians in order to augment their false flag desperate attempts.
That's right. The Zionists kill the Christians and blame it on the Muslims. That's exactly
right. And in fact, I personally immediately reported to the Secret Service when Thierry Mason wrote an article in which he said that if Trump is assassinated in the near term, it will be by the Zionists and perhaps aided by Saudi Arabia, and then they will turn around and try and blame it on Iran. So as a loyal, patriotic American, I immediately sent that to both the White House and the Secret Service, and I believe our president is ably protected, but now I think he's as aware as anyone that it's the near enemy, not the far enemy, that is a threat. Now, let me ask you this. What are the possibilities that the general was not actually killed? That this was a reverse false flag of magnificent, incredible proportions. Let me finish. Yeah. That was arranged with the supreme leader after Trump met secretly with Rouhani, who is fluent in English, no witnesses, in New York.
It's possible, but I don't know. And when I don't know, I can speculate about, there's all sorts of scenarios you can speculate about, but I try to stick to what I can see. it's very possible they can fake something like that big time these days. And I know that President Rouhani just visited Prime Minister Abe in Japan, and there have been all sorts of peace moves going on. So, but
no,
I still...
Putin is in Syria. I mean, Putin is in Syria, and I think that's part of it.
Yeah, but I think that a more reasonable scenario based on what you can actually see is that there was a big move towards a final peace deal, and some Zionists have been trying to stop it, and they're failing.
Let me also point out that there are a number of weak indicators, and I've just published update number 10 to our report on this whole thing, which is at tinyurl.com/www.III-no for World War III-no. It looks like this attack on the American base might have been faked. Some of the TV channels are using, and this might be their mistake, not the fact that the attack was faked, but what we're seeing is a replay of rockets that hit Gaza. It's
possible, but they do that sort of stuff. But there's another thing. I'm just getting some. As we're talking, I've been asking about the Ukrainian airplane that crashed,
right,
leaving Tehran for the Ukraine when all 189 people on board died. Now, I've already been told by 2 different sources that it was remotely hijacked and crashed. Now, the question is, who was on it and why? I mean, the Ukraine is sort of a Zionist bastion. And hold on a sec.
Yeah, while you're looking, let me point out that the Ukraine is the second largest country in Europe and the second largest nuclear power in Europe. And the Zionists have been working very closely with the American neoconservatives to replace the communist government of the Ukraine with a fascist government that is welcoming of Russian criminal elements that comprise the leadership of the invented state of Israel.
Yeah. Anyway, look, I'm gonna, there's a lot going on, but I think what's the bottom line is that a big push was made to start World War III, and it was like a final desperate thrashing of the dying Zionist machine, and that we are headed for world peace. I have a bunch of meetings towards that purpose, but I know that the sane people in the Pentagon and the Vatican and the P3 and the British Commonwealth and the Asian secret societies are all on the same page that we want a world peace, and we don't want a fascist centralized world government, but we do need common rules that we all have to obey, just like they have in any village or any family. And that's what we're working for.
Let me ask your quick opinion of Trump. Sylvain Laforest, a Frenchman, has published a brilliant piece about Trump and how Trump is essentially manipulating world perception as he moves toward world peace. That he had to back away from having the obvious good guys like General Michael Flynn, who I'm a huge fan of. And he's now doing more subtle things. Would you agree that Trump, no matter how you perceive him, is actually doing things that might end up with world peace?
Well, one way or the other. You can look at it 2 ways. One is that he's being blackmailed by the Zionists to do these crazy things, and the other is that he's giving enough rope to hang themselves with. Either way, the result is the same, because either if he does, get blackmailed into doing crazy things like killing Soleimani, it blows up in their faces. And if he's just faking it all, it blows up in their faces. So either way, the result is the same, which is what counts.
Well, Henry Kissinger did say that the Israel, which is an invented state, would be gone by 2022. And we seem to be on that timeline. I do believe in the forces of history, and I really see world peace coming. So, Ben, is there anything else? I mean, I'm seeing signals that there's going to be a major economic announcement here in the United States in the next 10 days. I'm surprised that the Fed is printing money, since most money is digital rather than paper.
Well, when I say printing, it's a metaphor. I don't actually mean they're making physical bills. I'm talking about pumping money into the banks to keep their whole quadrillion, whatever,
right.
thing from collapsing. But it's mathematically doomed, and it's not backed by reality. But some sort of announcement is possible, and we're working towards it. I'll know more towards the end of the month, but clearly something's happening, something's big's in the pipeline. But one last thing I want to say before I go is that the thing that Jews and the people in Israel need to understand is that despite all this Holocaust propaganda, nobody's going to come and kill them. Nobody's going to get them. There's no need for a Samson option or anything like that. Everything's going to be fine, and they're going to be liberated. That's all. Nobody's going to kill innocent people, and so it's going to be a good thing, even for those who were brainwashed to the kill.
And I totally endorse that. And I've been writing for the Tehran Times since I can't get published in the United States of America. There seems to be a prejudice against former spies who tell the truth here. But the bottom line is that the supreme leader in Iran has come out and said that when he talks about the end of Israel, he's only talking about the invented state of Israel, which is really managed and operated by Russian criminals in exile, as well as American Jewish criminals, including the mega group which funded Epstein, funded 9/11, and so forth. And he's made it very clear that Jews in Israel will be just as protected as Jews in Iran. And I'm looking forward to visiting the synagogue in Iran, where my friend, the former bishop of Jerusalem and the Middle East, has said is one of the most spectacular synagogues in the world, in Iran. So any last parting thoughts? And I promise you we'll have a black screen that urges people to subscribe to your superb weekly newsletter, which I subscribe to. I value it very much every Monday. And
all I can say is I'm having, important face-to-face meetings, to try to get stuff to happen, because I don't trust the digital stuff. It's just too much fakery. There's too much, disinformation. So I'm working with real people who I confirm exist. I know you exist. We've met in person. Some of the British people, we've exchanged handwritten notes, so I know they exist. The Asian Secrets is so we're dealing at that level with real human beings, and what we're trying to do is save the planet. And we're not out to get the bad guys or get revenge, or we're here to save the planet. We're not out to get the bad guys. We're trying to save the planet and turn this world into the paradise it's supposed to be. That's all. So nobody needs to worry. That's why. It'll be a very interesting and bumpy ride as we start the new year, but I'm sure that the good news will overwhelm the bad.
Well, then let's end on that note. I'm a huge truth and reconciliation person, and I share with you that view. Ben Fulford, you're a giant. I love your Monday reports. God bless you, and God bless everybody watching this program. And God bless the master entertainer, the WrestleMania champion of the world, Donald Trump.